Disaster. Someone once said that insurance thrives on it. In some ways, this is true. Insurance exists for the express purpose of ameliorating the effects of disaster, of compensating for the losses incurred. As the cost of disaster increases, so does the size of the claims made upon the insurers. In any one week, the claims met by the British insurance industry will total several £million. So how are these claims handled? Most claims are routed through the people who originally placed the risk, the insurance brokers.
Because it reacted straight away and took us damage.
With the larger brokers, a commercial claim would be handled by a claims technician, usually an A-level entrant with perhaps 5 years' experience in the business.
Yeah, well, I think if we take a fire claim as an example, initially we usually get a letter in from the client just reporting a fire has taken place, requesting a claim form. That's not sufficient from our point of view. What it really needs is a phone call to the client to try and get some more background information, i.e. what are we involved with, money-wise, whether it's buildings damage, contents damage. We get as much as we can to build up a general picture. Once we've got the information, we will then phone up the insurance company. That's if it's an existing client and we have enough information on our files to know who the market is and what the cover is.
We're basically a broker branch here, so our claims are sent in via the brokers. As soon as we get the claim form in, the underwriters advise us the particular cover applying to this particular risk. We then have to, establish either by the extent of injuries or damage to property whether or not we can investigate ourselves here by letter or telephone, or whether or not it should go to an outside inspector.
Usually a job will come to an inspector because it can be dealt with quicker by having someone call, or someone going to see the circumstances, or someone to discuss it with a solicitor. The idea is that one call, or perhaps two, you should be able to dispose of a claim, which otherwise might take 6, 10, 20 letters to dispose of. I would suggest that 50% of the calls on solicitors are concerning motor claims, or perhaps even 75%. The only time when you get a motor claim is basically when you've got to see a solicitor, or you've got to investigate the accident by doing a locus, or if you want to check on the road markings or something like this. Well, the idea is to take measurements and distances, and judging by accident circumstances which are given to you, often you'll find that insured will say what speed he was doing, and then you have to judge these speeds, what sort of stopping distances there are that go with these speeds, as to whether or not any of the three vehicles could have avoided the accident, and this is basically how you work out where your liabilities lie.
My own involvement is with solicitors and assessors and the public in general, basically smaller claims, small injuries where it's not really economical for us to send it to a local branch to investigate, or where it's obvious that there's no dispute on liability. We pass the files out to outside inspectors.
As a claims inspector, one tends to spend a lot of one's time visiting solicitors who are acting on behalf of parties who have been injured in perhaps motor accident, or perhaps they've had an ordinary accident that's covered by a personal accident policy. They've broken their leg somewhere, they've had a skiing accident. Insurance is people. It's contact with people. It's how you react to people and how you let people react to you. You have to be able to talk to people.
One of our other calls of the day is a consequential loss claim which resulted at a riding stable when one of the horses picked up ringworm. Ringworm is very infectious, and it spread through to 3 or 4 of the horses. Because it is very infectious, the whole stables had to be closed down. We look at the layout, see whether or not there are any precautions or anything should have been done to have prevented the ringworm. We'll have to look at the stables and see how many horses there are to ensure that the details on the claim form tally with the actual situation. We'll have to check between livery horses and riding school horses, because the amount of cash coming in will vary. There will be a set rate for a riding lesson, a set rate for various other types of riding activities, and there is an entirely different rate for livery horses. Livery horses just means that the riding stable is looking after the horses for somebody who will come along and ride them at their will. Now, the point of the call is to ascertain how many horses are involved, what sort of money comes into the stables on a weekly basis. We'll have to look at the books for the previous year at the same time during that year, because obviously one tends to have a seasonal business. And you've got your booking figures down here?
Yeah. It's really an investigative procedure, getting as much information as we can. Once we have established this, we can then proceed further by checking into the policy details for the client and formulating his claim.
Well, I deal mostly with contractors' all risk claims and fire claims. Being a large branch, most of our fire claims are big commercial risks such as warehouses, factories, this sort of thing. We get some smaller ones, household claims, which we would deal with ourselves. But the larger ones, you would normally expect the broker to ring them through to you because they are urgent and they want someone down there straight away. This is the sort of loss that we would generally put out to a loss adjuster to act on our behalf.
If it's a serious case, once we've established certain facts, we would probably phone up the insurance company just to let them know what the situation is. Obviously, they have the final say in the matter as regards investigations, whether they just purely want a claim form completed or whether they want a loss adjuster to actually visit the premises.
Hello, Mrs. Jones.
Hello.
Mr. Beverley about your insurance claim.
Oh, the garage,
Yes, that's right.
Let's
Looks
have a
rather
look.
dreadful. Can we go around and have a look at it?
Yes, I'll show you the damage.
It's pretty nasty, isn't it?
It is.
Happened
very
yesterday,
nasty.
didn't it?
Yes, it did, yesterday morning.
And what exactly happened?
Well, it's the council dustcarts which collects the large paladins.
Yes.
And they came from down the road reversing to go round the corner.
Yeah.
And tried to avoid a car parked on the corner.
And rammed
didn't look,
it.
Yes, didn't look
And
suitable.
rammed it, yes, I see. This shoring up was done by the council, was it?
Yes, they came immediately to do that.
Yeah.
And because it's, obviously dangerous with the main beam above.
Yeah, they looked to have done
support
quite a
it.
good job here. And it was they who took down the wall, was
Yes,
it?
they broke all the loose brickwork away and
Yeah.
just left it inside.
Have you any idea roughly how much this showing cost?
Probably about £300.
About
I'm not
£300.
sure yet.
Yeah,
about
I think
that.
it would be
This is
about
done.
that. Have you got estimates for the wall?
I'm getting that at the moment.
That's fine, Mrs. Jones. Obviously, we'll have to watch the quotations when they come in because that's central London, and sometimes the estimates in central London are a bit on the high side, so we'll watch that. And also we'll have to handle the recovery for the insurers, in that we'll be asking Westminster City Council for the money back because it was their dust cart which rammed the policyholder's property. That's the only difficult thing about that claim, though. The one this afternoon, going down to Brighton now, too large for me to handle on my own, so this is a second visit, in fact. One of our senior partners went down to see it in the initial stages, and I'm helping him really on this claim, and obviously building up my experience as well. It's a very much more complex claim, really, possibly £1 million claim, and it involves a bus station which has been burnt out. Several buses have been wrecked, and we're trying to minimise the loss as much as possible. We're going to try and get as much salvage as we can from the buses which were damaged. They're so badly burnt that there's not going to be very much. There might be a couple of engines which we can salvage. We might be able to cannibalise a few parts. On these wrecks, so they're not going to get any more fares on them. The glass of the roof completely melted. The aluminium girders are bent and buckled. What we want to do is to get that roof replaced as quickly as possible. We've got two estimates now which are both quite reasonable, so we'll be going through those and instructing one of those firms to start as quickly as we can.
I suppose originally, no intention of getting insurance. I wanted to go to university, but I thought I'd give insurance broking a try and never regretted it at all.
Well, when I left university, I was looking around for a job, and I saw it advertised in a national newspaper, and I applied for the advertisement. It sounded a very interesting job, and the interview backed that up, really. The prospects are good, so I joined immediately on the spot.
Well, the school I went to in the last few years, you were sort of had a choice between science course or a commerce course. I took the commerce course, which more or less steered you into a career. They recommended mostly banking or insurance.
Well, I've never looked back. I've gone on and on and on.
You can get on, there's no doubt about it. If you want to go on, there are openings and opportunities for you.
At the end of the day, when you get the claim finalised, especially if it's not a straightforward one, that gives me a lot of satisfaction.
It's an interesting job. It's always different. You're out and about meeting people, and apart from anything else, the prospects are so good. It's a rewarding job, both personally and financially.
I get a tremendous kick out of it at the end of the day.